James Leininger was born in the San Francisco Bay Area on April 10, 1998, to Bruce and Andrea Leininger. His father worked in the oil and gas industry. His mother managed the household. By all accounts, a routine beginning. Roughly 2 years later, in 2000, the boy begins waking up screaming 3, sometimes 4 times a week. The same words repeated across many months. Airplane crash. On fire. Little man can't get out. Recurring nightmares in toddlers are not unusual. What made the Leininger case different, according to both parents and later to researchers, was what happened as the boy's vocabulary grew. James began adding details. He described flying from a ship he called Natoma. He named a friend on that ship, Jack Larson. He said his plane was shot down near a place he called Iwo Jima. He said he had been a pilot. Bruce Leininger was a practicing Christian. His response, by his own later account in the family's 2009 book, Soul Survivor, was not wonder. It was doubt. He began making phone calls and searching early internet databases with a specific goal: to find the holes in his son's claims. To demonstrate that the details were wrong or generic or explainable. The family had relocated to Lafayette, Louisiana, where Bruce had accepted an HR director position with an oil industry company. It was there, in that household, that the nightmares continued and the investigation began. Andrea Leininger was, by her own account in the same book, more open earlier. That difference in starting position matters to how this case was recorded, and we will come back to it. Bruce Leininger's research led him to naval records. The USS Natoma Bay, hull classification CVE-62, was a real escort carrier. It operated in the Pacific Theater during World War II. One of its pilots was a 21-year-old man from Pennsylvania named James M. Houston, Jr. On March 3, 1945, during operations near Chichi-jima in the Bonin Islands, part of the broader campaign that also involved Iwo Jima, Houston's aircraft was struck by anti-aircraft fire. According to accounts documented in naval records and later compiled by researchers, the propeller was knocked off. The nose of the plane caught fire. Houston did not escape. The aircraft went down in flames near Futami Ko Harbor. His body was never recovered. The child had said Iwo Jima. The actual location was Chichi-jima, a separate island. Both were part of the same Pacific campaign, and the names were used loosely even by veterans of that period. It is a geographic discrepancy that researchers have noted, and we will return to it. There was also, in fact, a pilot in the Natoma Bay Squadron named Jack Larson. Bruce Leininger did not stop at the discovery of naval records. He located and attended a reunion of Natoma Bay veterans. He spoke with men who had served alongside James Houston, Jr. By his account in Soul Survivor, those conversations confirmed details about the circumstances of Houston's death that matched what his son had described. The pilot's sister, Anne Barron, was eventually contacted. According to accounts in the family's book, she confirmed biographical details consistent with the claims. Bruce Leininger kept notes. His trajectory through this research is documented in the family memoir. He began as a man trying to disprove something. The book describes him arriving, over time, at a different conclusion. That arc, skeptic to believer, is emotionally compelling. It is also, on its own, not evidence. A father's conviction, however sincerely held, is not a research finding. What matters, if anything in this case matters scientifically, is the sequence of events. What the child said, when he said it, and when the underlying facts were confirmed. This is where Dr. Jim Tucker enters the record. Tucker is a researcher at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies, which was established by the late Dr. Ian Stevenson and has maintained a long-running academic program investigating cases of what it terms the reincarnation type. Tucker published a peer-reviewed case study on James Leininger in the journal Explore in 2016, titled The Case of James Leininger, an American Case of the Reincarnation Type. He also discussed the case in his 2013 book, Return to Life. Tucker's central argument is methodological. He contends that the key statements made by the child, the ship name, the pilot's name, Jack Larson, the location, the manner of death, were documented by the parents before the identity of James Houston Jr. had been confirmed through research. If that chronology holds, it is at minimum a harder puzzle than post hoc coincidence. Tucker's framework for evaluating such cases comes from Stevenson's earlier work. Look for specificity. Look for correct information that the child could not have encountered through normal means, and, critically, look at when statements were recorded relative to when facts were verified. The Leininger case, under Tucker's analysis, presents a tighter chain of custody than most American cases of this type. That is the claim. It does not resolve the question, it sharpens it. The skeptical response to this case is substantive, and it deserves to be stated plainly. First, the quality of the parental record-keeping. Tucker's argument rests on the parents having documented statements before the facts were verified. Critics have questioned whether those records are rigorous enough to carry that weight, whether notes taken by invested parents in a non-controlled environment constitute the kind of contemporaneous documentation that would satisfy an independent standard of evidence. Second, cryptomnesia. This is the hypothesis that a young child absorbed war-related content from television, books, overheard conversations, or other ambient sources, and reconstructed that material internally as personal memory. Children are highly susceptible to narrative suggestion, and World War II aircraft imagery was not obscure in early 2000s American media. Third, confirmation bias in the hit-to-miss ratio. The claims that matched Natoma, Jack Larson, Iwo Jima as a rough geographic marker receive attention. A full accounting of everything the child said, including claims that did not match or were vague, is harder to assess from published accounts alone. Striking hits are memorable, non-hits are not. Fourth, a critical re-examination of Tucker's Explore paper was published approximately 2021 to 2022, specifically challenging elements of his analysis. That paper exists in the academic record, and Tucker's case study should be read alongside it. And finally, Bruce Leininger's transformation from skeptic to believer is worth noting for what it is and is not. It is a genuine account of a father confronting something he could not explain to his own satisfaction. It is not, by itself, evidence for any interpretation of what his son experienced. James Leininger's nightmares, according to the family's account, diminished and eventually stopped as he grew older. By most accounts, he has grown up to be an unremarkable young man in the ordinary sense, which is perhaps the least sensational but most consistent outcome for cases of this kind in Tucker's database. The Leininger family published Soul Survivor in 2009. The case attracted significant media attention and became one of the most frequently cited American examples in the academic literature on childhood past life claims. Tucker's 2016 paper remains in the published record of Explore journal. The Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia continues to maintain a database of similar cases. As of Tucker's own published statements, the Leininger case is considered one of the stronger examples in the American subset, not because it is proven, but because the documented sequence of claims and verification is better preserved than in most comparable cases. What this case turns on is sequence. Not whether a 2-year-old described a World War II pilot, children say many things, but whether specific verifiable claims were documented before the facts behind them were confirmed. Tucker says yes, and presents his reasoning. Critics say the documentation is not rigorous enough to support that conclusion. Both positions are on the record. Bruce Leininger set out to disprove his son's claims and ended up attending the funeral of a man he came to believe his son had once been. Whether that outcome reflects something real about the nature of consciousness or reflects the very human tendency to find pattern and meaning when the stakes feel high enough, that is not a question this case settles. But it is worth sitting with the methodology for a moment. What standard of documentation would you require before a child's statements could no longer be explained by the available alternatives? And does that standard exist in any case on record?